Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Thanks for joining me again today. If you've watched a few of my other videos, then you already know that I'm not a professional. I'm just a girl who has figured out that there are things that I can fix and maintenance around the house that could cost a lot of money. So my goal is to help you feel confident that you can do a lot of the fixes around your house yourself. Today I am going to be mending a hose, for water, that is. So the tools that you'll need today are pretty minimal. You will need a pretty decent pair of scissors, sort of heavy, see? You'll need, well, you might need a hammer. It depends on how tightly these hose menders fit into your hose. You will need the hose menders, either one or both, male and or female. The difference in them is that the threads on the male are exposed, while the threads on the female are more on the inside. These come in both metal and plastic. I haven't had very good luck with the plastic ones, so I would actually highly recommend the metal ones. You will need to get some of the little rubber washers that go inside of the hose ends. Most hose menders come with them, but not all of them do. And also, these are just a good idea to have around because generally if your water hose goes to leaking down at the connection point at the end, then it's going to be because you just need to replace the washer. The last thing that you'll need is you'll need a screwdriver, and you'll need to match it up to the type of screw that is on your mender. Generally it's going to be a flat one. And that is all that you should need for today. Now, of course, I did neglect to mention you'll need a hose that needs to be repaired. As you can see, mine is in pretty bad shape, and if you've tried duct taping your hose, you know that it does not work, but sometimes whenever you're in a bind and you really need one, this is all you can do. But I'm gonna fix this, and used to, whenever my hoses would break, I would just throw them away, which is totally wasteful and expensive and unnecessary. So all you have to do, take your good pair of scissors, cut off the bad part of the hose. It is going to be a little bit hard to cut. You could also use a utility knife with this, but I like scissors better for this because it's just easy to do. Okay, now I'm stuck. Whoops. You do want to cut it off not jaggedy like I just did on that one. You want a reasonably straight cut. It doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Alright, now the next thing you want to do is you want to find which end of the hose you've got. Okay, or which side you've got. So I have got the end that's still attached to my non-end right now, is the female piece. And you never want to have the same type of connector on both ends of the same hose. So ideally, what you want is where, should have cut this off already, shouldn't I? You want your hose to be able to connect to itself if you wanted to put it in a closed loop. So that means that on the end, on the piece of hose that has a female connector, I'm going to put the male connector on this other end. So all you do, this part here slides down into the hose, and you want to get it in there as snugly as you can. And this is where the hammer comes in, so this is a pretty tight fit for my hose. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take and I'm going to pound it down in here a bit. And it might help. I worked over here directly by the deck, just for this reason. If you have a hard surface that you can kind of hold this on, it'll help you get it in there better. And this is another reason why I'm not a big fan of using the plastic hose menders, is because if you go to pound them in like that, often they'll just crack and break. So I've got this pretty far in there. I was just screwing it in also, but There we go. So now I've got the piece in here, but what did I do wrong? I totally forgot to put, excuse me, to put the sleeve on it that's going to tighten it and keep it on here. Oh no, what do I do? Because it is incredibly hard to get this out of the end once you've got it in there. Well, fortunately, this tightens and loosens very easily with the screwdriver. So I'm just going to screw it open a bit, and then it comes apart. So now I have this collar, and I'm just going to slide around the hose, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. So what would I have done ideally? I would have put this on before I shoved that hose mender end in there. But it's okay, it's not lost, and it's actually really good for you to see this so that you don't think, oh no, there's no way to fix that, because I've learned that in one way or another, everything is fixable. So I didn't want to watch you make me go through the pain and agony of having to screw all that back together. It took a couple minutes, but I did want you to see right here at the end, when you start to get this collar tight, it's going to get pretty hard to cinch up, but screw it in as tight as you can, and it's okay, you'll have this bit of metal hanging over, or you should. So you just screw it on as tight as you can, and that's as tight as that's going to go. And now I have half a mended hose, or actually I have a whole hose, but I'm going to mend the other half too. Okay, so now we're going to do the female connector, and what is the first thing that we do before we do anything else is we put the sleeve on the hose so that we don't have to worry about this later. And it can slide down out of the way, that's fine. It's just, it needs to be on there, right? Okay, so it's the same thing again. I have my metal female hose connector, and I am going to put this portion down in the hose, and I'm going to get it in there as far as I possibly can. And this one, wow, this one's going in there much nicer and more easily than the other one did. Now the thing with the females is that they do have this kind of woggly end, so it's not, you're not quite as likely to be able to pound them with the hammer, or I should say it's not an overly good idea unless you have something that can fit down in here, like the head of a screwdriver. How clever is that? And then you can just pound on the end of your screwdriver a bit. You might want to use something where you're not actually damaging the end of your screwdriver though. But it didn't take much, and it got down in there. And as I hope you can see, this one does have the rubber washer in it already. It came with it, so I did not need to use either of my washers this time. Now I'm going to find that sleeve, which slid way down the hose. I'm going to bring it up here, because again, this is what tightens the hose around the mender and keeps the hose from falling off. So same thing as it was on the other one, you just screw until it's tight. Now it's tight. If you have metal snips, you can snip the end of this off, but otherwise it's fine if it just stays there. It's not going to harm it. The most that it might do is get caught on something on the ground or something like that. So what is this? Now we have two beautifully mended little pieces of hose. I could recommend something to you to make this easier, is to do this on a warm day. It's pretty chilly out here today, so my hose is not real flexible, as you can see. But if you do it on a warmer day, your hose is going to be a lot more flexible, and you won't have quite as much trouble getting, like say the male was very hard to get into the hose. You won't have quite as much trouble getting the hose to bend and flex and take the menders quite as much. So for less than 5 minutes and less than $3, I just fixed my hose that I thought I was going to have to throw away and replace with a new $20 or $30 hose, whatever they cost. They're not cheap anymore. Anyways, I hope that helped you and you saw how easy it is to actually fix your hose that has a hole in it. Or maybe you have something that's stuck to the end that's gotten stuck on there just from using it with water. I've had that happen. Some of the sprayer ends get stuck and I can't get them off, so I just cut the end off and replace it. Anyway, I hope it helped you. Hope you learned something, and I hope you'll join me again next time.